You're listening to 98.5 Nvpr, operating out of Cherland Heights, the most beautiful neighborhood in Aurelia. Up on the docket tonight, as always, we'll start with the shipping forecast and move into some national news, primarily the completion and occupation of the Green Tower, and the recent strike by Galilean miners, followed of course by coverage of rising religious extremist action in the CSA, as well as the recent border clash between Finnish troops and Zingoan troops last week in the far western provinces, and what it means for the locals there. Now for the shipping forecast for the east coast of Aurelia, provided graciously by the Royal Meteorological Society for Tuesday the 11th of November. Arctic approaches, southerly 6 or 7, snow, pour. Narvik Straits, southerly or southwesterly 5 or 6, snow, pour, occasionally moderate. Narvik Bay, Juddel Bay, eastern approaches, northerly 4 or 5 at first and 6 occasionally, snow, moderate, occasionally good. Galeal, northerly or northwesterly 4 or 5, increasing 6 at times, mainly fair, variable to snow, fair, occasionally good. Southern Galeal, northerly or northwesterly 2 or 3, increasing 4 at times, 4, variable to showers, fair, occasionally good. Eddard Peninsulars, southerly 2 or 3, increasing 4 to the west, fair, showers later, moderate, occasionally good. Lake Imperial, northerly or northeasterly 2 rising to 3 in the north, showers variable to clear, pour, occasionally moderate. That concludes the shipping forecast. Discussing national news, the Green Tower, or the Garden Tower, was completed in Anava and occupants began moving in last week. Known widely as the greatest show of Finnish environmental technologies to date, it presents what has been described as the magnum opus of environmental city planning, incorporating unique power generation methods in almost every aspect of the construction and using artificial intelligence on a level never seen before to provide seamless integration of the various Internet of Things technologies and adjustable features available within the building. Critics point to the price tag, a whopping 4 billion kroner, as proof of the failures of Finnish environmental policy and the unattainability of widespread climatology progress. One member of the VCP called the project, quote, dangerous and wasteful of funds better spent elsewhere, end quote, while an inquiry led by Commons ministers of the VCP investigated the legitimacy of further government investment into these projects, and called for immediate power audits into the efficiency and long-term sustainability of the measures being taken to improve Finnish self-sufficiency. Elsewhere, the most recent strikes in Galeal between Galish miners and extraction workers have escalated recently, with workers alleging poor working conditions, improper PPE, and poor enforcement of national workplace safety standards across most extraction operations in the region. Representatives from Sala, the primary operator of the extraction platforms in the Arctic seas and on Galeal itself, have refused to cooperate with strikers up until last week, when the Labor Ministry ruled by referendum that Sala must enter talks with union leaders. The coal miners and platform workers unions have both reported that the expectations set out by Sala representatives are unrealistic and unacceptable, and that the companies will not offer fair terms of their own volition. The conditions of Sala operations, some say, mirror the conditions of natural gas and oil necessity in the country today. With most of the population centered in larger cities, the primary consumers of oil and gas tend to be rural communities and large industrial operations currently incapable of operation independent of these materials. Confining Sala to Galeal was an unpopular move on the part of the Office of Climatology in 2000, but a necessity to prevent reliance on foreign industry to continue certain vital operations, though the decreased revenue and increased operating costs due to federal regulations on labor and emissions have led, union leaders say, to Sala cutting corners when it comes to the safety of its workers. Federal investigation is underway, with a report expected sometime in the next 2 months. On the international stage, the most recent in the long history of border clashes between Finnish Border Patrol and armed personnel originating in Zinguo was met with swift apprehension of Zingoan offenders as well as provincial inquiry in the courts as to the nature of the conflict. While the BPV officers involved in the shootout were ruled not responsible, this marks the latest in a series of clashes between seemingly unaffiliated Zingoan nationals and Finnish border police. To shore up border security, an RVMP mandate has been issued authorizing the 5th and 8th Mounted Police Regiments to deploy to the region, occupying a series of decommissioned checkpoints built when Zingo first entered the far west with the permission of the Finnish government. Provincial legislators have petitioned the Riksdag to hold a summit with Zingo to determine the origin of the intruders and begin working for a solution. Meanwhile, in the CSA, religious extremism is on the rise, with an offshoot group of Bell followers abducting and killing 2 teenagers volunteering at a Bell hold, which has been connected with a previous killing earlier in the year. State media suggested in an earlier broadcast that the formation of militias or watch groups for Bell holds and neighborhoods may be a wise move for threatened regions, which suggests a wider reach of danger than potentially suggested by the media. Border towns in Vinland with higher Bell follower numbers have been advised by the Ministry of National Security to prepare for similar measures if the issues with abductions and murders spread across the border, and Finnish towns are being encouraged to organize watch groups to report any potentially radical religious activity. Wherever you are, whatever your religion, ethnicity, or gender, thank you for listening to 89.5 Nvpr. We look forward to having you on tomorrow.